My fiancée said that either I signed the business over to her parents or there will be no wedding. I never thought a conversation could shatter my world so abruptly. I was sitting across from her, a mug of coffee in one hand, my fiancé's in the other, expecting to talk about the final details for our upcoming trip. In my heart, everything felt perfect. The wedding invitations were nearly off the press, the venue booked, and I'd even picked out the perfect suit. But as soon as she spoke, it felt like the floor fell away beneath me. "Look," she said, voice low and deliberate, "my parents love you. They really do. But they've made it clear that unless you transfer your business to them, there will be no wedding." My coffee trembled in the mug. My stomach twisted. She knew how much I'd built this company from the ground up. It wasn't just income, it was my identity. My pride. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Then I managed a weak laugh that came out brittle and dry. "Transfer my business? You mean hand everything over?" She nodded once. Eyes downcast. I felt a rising anger, confusion, heartbreak all jumbled into a single wave of emotion. "But that's why." She looked at me then, tears welling. "They just want to secure their investment. They've backed family projects for years, and this would help them." I exhaled sharply. My dreams crowded in on me, nights spent refining business plans, phone calls with suppliers at 1 a.m., celebrating every small victory because it felt like a family. Those weren't just business moments, they were pieces of me. My heart pounding, I laid the mug down. My hands shook. "You're giving them an ultimatum," I said flatly. "You're telling me I have to choose between my life's work and marrying you." She swallowed hard. "I know it sounds harsh. But I've told them this wedding means everything to me. Everything. They're footing a good portion of it. They feel like it's only right that the business comes too." Her words hit like a punch. I had always thought we were equals, partners, even both in our relationship and in values. But that line, it changed everything. I scooted my chair back and stood. The air felt thin. "So, either I sign over the company we started together, or you call off the wedding?" "Yes." She said it quietly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I'm so sorry." Then she rushed forward and reached out, but I stepped back. She paused, chest heaving. I saw tears spill over. I left the cafe without a word, leaving her there with an empty chair and a spilled coffee ring on the table. I wandered the nearby street, sunlight blinding me through tearful eyes. I paced for hours, trying to make sense of it all. I replayed our entire relationship, the first date where we bonded over movies, the nights we spent dreaming about our future, the moments I thought solidified us as a team. And I remembered her excitement when we opened the company's first office, how she called me afterward to say, "We're doing it." I felt like every corner I'd built was crumbling. By the time evening fell, I made my way home. Our apartment was silent. Too silent. I could hear my own breathing. My fiancée was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, waiting. I closed the door behind me and whispered, "Why did you bring this up now? Why here?" She looked up, eyes red. "I didn't want to. I tried to think of a way around it. But after talking with them, they made it clear." "Your parents forced you into this?" I asked. Her lower lip trembled. "It wasn't just them. Some of their friends said, well, it's tradition. They do this sort of thing. They insisted it was normal." I felt a cold anger. Tradition? That was an excuse. A justification. I paced the apartment once, twice, 3 times, then stopped and faced her. "We built this together," I said. "I thought you believed in me." She covered her face with her hands. I do, I swear. But what's more important? Your business or being married?" The question hung in the air. I swallowed hard and felt rage bubbling up. "You gave me an ultimatum. That isn't love. That's coercion." She lowered her hands. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I don't want a smaller wedding. I don't want to hurt you. But I'm terrified of disappointing them." I saw tears shimmer behind her eyelashes. Part of me wanted to comfort her, hold her, tell her it would be okay. But the rest of me burned with betrayal. We sat in silence for what felt like hours, sides facing each other but worlds apart. Finally I stood. The future screamed its demands: fight value, or give in. "I need time," I said softly. She nodded. No anger, no protest, just pain and defeat. I walked toward the bedroom, grabbed a sweater, and left the apartment again, this time stepping out into a rainy night. I didn't know where I'd go. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I couldn't stay where the decision I'd never make was demanded of me. I ended up in my old neighborhood. It's funny how you drift back to the places that feel safe when everything else goes dark. I hadn't walked these streets in years, rows of cracked sidewalks and flickering street lamps that barely lit up the potholes. But the familiarity was a kind of comfort I hadn't realized I was craving. I wandered past the diner I used to go to as a teenager, the one where the booths were duct-taped and the coffee tasted like burnt hope. I walked in. The smell hadn't changed. Grease, old coffee, and something sweet, maybe cinnamon rolls. I sat in the corner booth, the one near the jukebox that hadn't worked in at least a decade. A tired-looking waitress gave me a once-over and offered a menu without a word. I didn't need it. I ordered black coffee, extra strong, and sat staring out the rain-streaked window. My thoughts looped. Her face. Her voice. The words she'd said. They weren't just echoes. They were attacks. I took out my phone, scrolling aimlessly. Her texts had come in, 3 of them. All short. Please come home. We need to talk more. I didn't want it to be this way. I didn't answer. I stared at my own reflection in the window, hair damp from the rain, eyes sunken and dull. I didn't recognize myself, and maybe that's what scared me most. Because if I was losing my identity, what was left? And then something strange happened. A man walked in. Mid-60s, maybe. Wore a worn-out coat and a hat 2 decades out of style. He looked around, spotted me, and walked straight to my booth. Without asking, he slid in across from me. "You look like you've had a day," he said. I blinked. "Do I know you?" He smiled. "No. But I know that face. Seen it in the mirror a few times. You're on the edge of something, kid." I should have told him to leave. I should have gotten up. But something about his tone, calm, measured, not trying to fix anything, kept me there. "You run a business?" he asked. I nodded. "Let me guess. Someone you love just asked you to give it up for something that sounds like love, but smells like control?" I stared. "How?" He held up a hand. "You'd be surprised how common it is. People think when you build something of your own, it's just another asset to be negotiated. They don't understand it's your soul poured into a structure." That hit me harder than I expected. I took a long sip of coffee. "Did you give it up?" I asked. He chuckled. "I didn't. I almost did, though." She left. Said I loved the business more than her. Maybe I did. But that business got me through 20 more years of life I wouldn't trade for anything. "Do you regret losing her?" He stared into his own coffee like it held secrets. "Sometimes. When the nights are cold and the house is too quiet. But mostly? No. Because what she asked for wasn't fair. And if someone loves you, really loves you, they don't ask you to cut off your wings just to prove it." I didn't say anything after that. I just sat there while he drank his coffee and left without another word. It was like he knew he'd already given me what I needed. By the time I got back to the apartment, it was past midnight. I slipped in quietly, soaked to the bone. She was asleep on the couch, curled up like a child, face still streaked with dried tears. The room smelled like lavender and regret. I watched her for a long time. I didn't want to hate her. And I didn't. I still loved her more than I wanted to admit. But love, I was starting to realize, wasn't about throwing everything into the fire for someone else's comfort. I went to bed without waking her. The next morning, she was in the kitchen, already dressed. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "You came back." "I needed time," I said. "I understand." She looked hopeful. "Can we talk now?" I nodded and sat down. She started speaking fast, like she'd rehearsed it. "I've been thinking. Maybe it didn't come out right. Maybe it sounded worse than I meant. I was scared. My parents, they pressure me a lot. I wanted everything to be perfect. And I thought if they saw us as one family unit, one business family, they'd stop treating you like an outsider." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to make you feel like I don't support you. I do. I've always believed in you. I just thought this would solidify things. Bring us together." I looked at her. And maybe for the first time, I didn't see her as the woman I planned to marry. I saw her as a person with fears, with flaws, with her own tangled hopes that didn't always make sense. I appreciate you saying that, I said slowly. But the damage is done. Even if you take it back now, the truth is, I know how far you were willing to go. You crossed a line. One I didn't think existed between us. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. I would have given you anything, I said. Shared everything. But asking me to sign over my work to your parents? That's not compromise. That's control. She looked like she might cry again. I can't marry someone who sees my life's work as a bargaining chip. Then what are you saying? She whispered. I took a breath that felt like it scraped my lungs. I'm saying I need to step away. From all of it. From this. Her hand clutched the table. I don't know what happens next, I admitted. Maybe we work through this, maybe we don't. But I can't walk into a marriage that starts with betrayal. She didn't answer. And I didn't press her. I got up, packed a bag, and left the apartment before she had a chance to stop me. I didn't know where I was going yet. But I knew I needed to rebuild something: trust, identity, maybe even hope. I spent the next week living out of a suitcase in a hotel that smelled like lemon disinfectant and cigarette ghosts. It was the kind of place that made you think in half sentences. I'd wake up at noon, scroll through my inbox without reading anything, then walk aimlessly through parts of the city that didn't remind me of her. But it was impossible to escape completely. She had her fingerprints everywhere, on my playlists, in the way I brewed coffee, even in how I folded my shirts. At the store, I reached for her favorite granola before stopping myself. That tiny moment brought me closer to tears than any argument we'd had. Because that's the kind of heartbreak no one warns you about, the small, silent hauntings. On the 5th day, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. Hey, he said, casual as ever. You all right? I heard through the grapevine your wedding might be on ice. I chuckled bitterly. That's one way to put it. Well, I'm calling because her parents reached out. They wanted to schedule a meeting. About your company. I felt like I'd been slapped. You're kidding. Wish I was. They're trying to frame it as a family restructuring opportunity. Sounded rehearsed. My jaw clenched. Did you say no? Of course. I told them nothing happens without your direct input. But, they're not going away. I ended the call and sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring at the floral wallpaper like it might offer an answer. Why couldn't they just let go? Why did this matter so much to them? Later that night, I sat in a small bar near the hotel. Not the kind of place I'd normally go to: dark, quiet, full of people who didn't want to be noticed. I liked it for that reason alone. I ordered a drink and stared into it like the surface might crack and show me the future. That's when a voice spoke beside me. Tough week? I turned to see a woman maybe a few years older than me, wearing a blazer like she'd just come from work but hadn't made it home yet. She didn't look like she wanted small talk, just acknowledgement. You could say that, I muttered. Love or money? I paused, then smiled wryly. Both. She laughed once. That's the worst combo. I nodded. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then she added, you look like someone who's about to lose something but hasn't decided whether to be angry or relieved. That hit hard. Too hard. She didn't push. She just sipped her drink and eventually slipped out into the night, her heels clicking against the tile. But her words lingered. Was I relieved? That question stayed with me for days. I had always told myself love came first. That business was just a means to an end. A tool to build a life with someone. But now, faced with the reality of losing both, I was starting to question if I'd been lying to myself all along. I remembered the nights we stayed up late designing logos, her curled beside me on the couch, offering input while pretending not to care about the spreadsheets. I remembered the look in her eyes when I landed our first real contract. She said, this is just the beginning. And I believed her. So what changed? Why did she stop seeing the company as ours? I went back to the apartment the next day, not to stay, just to pick up a few things. She was there, sitting on the balcony, knees pulled to her chest like she used to do when the world got too loud. She looked up when I walked in. I didn't think you'd come. I just need some stuff, I said. I'm not staying. She nodded slowly. I haven't stopped thinking about what you said. About how this all started. I didn't answer. Just moved through the space like a ghost, picking up fragments of myself. She followed me. I was wrong, she said quietly. About all of it. I let my parents' fear become mine. And I thought, maybe if I could just secure everything, the wedding, the business, it would make me feel safe. I zipped up my bag. I thought marrying you would mean we're partners. But somewhere along the line, I stopped treating you like one. That one stung more than I expected. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she added. But I want you to know, I told them no. I told them I won't be part of this anymore. They lost control when they used love as leverage. That made me pause. I turned to her. Did you mean it? I did, she said. I don't care about the wedding anymore. Not if it means sacrificing you. The air shifted. Not healed. Not fixed. But something real, something broken that was trying to rebuild. I don't know if I can come back, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know, she whispered. But I'm not asking you to. And in that moment, for the first time in weeks, I believed her. I left again that evening, but this time, something felt different. The weight hadn't lifted completely, but it had shifted, like I was carrying it in a new place. Somewhere I could manage it. Somewhere that didn't pull me under every step. There were no guarantees. No promises. Just the slow, painful beginning of something real again. Maybe not the wedding we planned. But maybe, something worth rebuilding anyway. The following days felt quieter, like walking through a house after a storm. Nothing looked broken, but everything was soaked through. I was back at the hotel, still unsure of where to go next. I couldn't return to the apartment, not yet, and I wasn't ready to be surrounded by friends offering well-meaning advice I didn't ask for. Work became my only constant. I buried myself in it. Meetings, planning, emails, the day-to-day grind of running the business, it grounded me. But it also forced me to face the truth I'd been avoiding. She had been a bigger part of this company than I ever gave her credit for. Not on paper. Never officially. But in the small, invisible ways that made everything move smoother. She remembered people's birthdays, calmed me down before pitches, made sure the snacks in the break room weren't just chips and regret. It was like running the company with one arm tied behind my back now. And I missed her. That realization scared me more than anything. One night, I was sitting in the office alone. Everyone had gone home, and the silence was thick. I was staring at a marketing report, not really reading it, when her name popped up on my phone. Just a text. There's something I want you to see. No context. No pressure. Against my better judgment, I replied, "What is it?" "Come to the studio. I'll be there in an hour." The studio was a space we rented once for brainstorming and photo shoots. She loved it. It had big windows, hardwood floors, and those exposed brick walls that made everything look dramatic. We hadn't used it in months. I hesitated. Then I went. When I got there, the lights were low. Soft music played from a Bluetooth speaker. She was standing by the far window, wearing a sweater I recognized. It was mine. She looked nervous but calm, like someone who had practiced this moment over and over. "I didn't bring you here to convince you of anything," she said before I even opened my mouth. "I just wanted to show you something." She walked over to the table in the center of the room. On it were stacks of papers, drawings, notes, things I didn't recognize. She picked up one and handed it to me. It was a business proposal. Not for my company, but for hers. "I've been working on this," she said softly. 4 weeks. Even before everything went south. I didn't know how to tell you because I was afraid you'd think I was trying to compete with you. Or use you. I flipped through the pages. It was a wellness brand, small scale, niche, but solid. The numbers were good. The concept was smart. More than that, it was hers. "I should have trusted myself," she said. But I didn't. I leaned on my parents because that's what I was taught to do. They always said if you can't own something, marry someone who does. She laughed once, short, bitter. I thought if we got married and they had the business, they'd finally treat me like I mattered. But all I did was prove them right, that I was willing to give up everything, even you, just to be accepted. She looked up, her eyes searching mine. "I don't want that anymore." I sat down slowly, flipping to the next page. Then the next. "You're really doing this?" I asked. "I am. On my own." I used my savings. I've been talking to local vendors. I even pitched to a few investors last week. I nodded slowly. This is good, I said. Really good. She looked down, biting her lip. I just wanted you to know that I'm not that girl anymore. The one who tried to trade your trust for a wedding dress. I don't know if I'll ever earn back what I lost. But I wanted you to see that I'm at least trying. There was a long silence. I stared at the proposal, but my mind was somewhere else. You could have told me, I said finally. I know. I should have. And if your parents find out? They already did, she said. They told me I was ungrateful. Said I'd regret cutting them out. Maybe they're right. But at least the mistakes will be mine. I didn't know what to say to that. Not yet. She stepped back. I won't bother you again. I just needed you to see it. Needed to know you saw me again. Not just the version that broke your heart. Then she walked out, leaving me alone with her dream on the table. I stayed in that room for another hour. Read every page. Twice. My hands trembled at some parts, especially where she'd written notes in the margins. There were traces of our old brainstorming sessions in there, little nods to the way we used to work. A phrase I used to say. A structure I'd taught her. She'd made it her own, but it still felt familiar. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the versions of us we used to be. The partners, the lovers, the co-creators. And the ones we were now, separated by pain, but still orbiting the same idea, building something that mattered. The next morning, I opened my laptop and typed an email. Just a short one. Subject, let's talk. Body, coffee? No strings. Just want to catch up. Let me know. I stared at it for a long time before clicking send. She replied within 15 minutes. Yes. Same cafe as before? I hesitated before typing back. Sure. Noon. The place hadn't changed. Same wobbly tables, same dark roast that somehow always tasted overbrewed. The same sunlit corner where we once planned the rest of our lives. I arrived early, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want her to get there first. I needed to ground myself before she walked in. She came in right on time. She looked different. Not in a dramatic way, no new hair, no bold outfit. But something about her posture had changed. She looked steady. Like someone who had learned to breathe through fire and didn't flinch anymore. She sat down slowly, offering a small smile. Hey. Hey. We ordered. We sipped. We were quiet. For a moment, I thought maybe this was a mistake. Maybe we should have left things where they stood, perfectly unresolved. But then she spoke. I'm glad you reached out, she said. I wasn't sure you ever would. I wasn't either, I admitted. But I kept thinking about that night. At the studio. And your proposal. Her eyes lit up a little. It's still a work in progress. It's impressive, I said, meaning every word. You've built something strong. I had a good teacher, she said. That hung between us like shared breath. We both knew it wasn't just about the business. I also wanted to say, I paused. The words caught, but I forced them through. I appreciate you standing up to them. Your parents. That wasn't easy. It wasn't, she agreed. They're not talking to me right now. But that's okay. You all right with that? She nodded. It's strange. I spent so long wanting to be accepted by them, and now I'm learning what it feels like to accept myself. That feels better. I smiled faintly. I've missed talking like this. Me too. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. I brought something for you. She blinked. What is it? An NDA, I said with a smirk. Kidding. It's a partnership outline. Between your startup and mine. A real one. No strings, no equity shenanigans. Just collaboration. She stared at it like it might burst into flames. You're serious? I am. You've got something great, and I know how to help you scale it. If you're open to it. A long pause. Then she smiled. And it wasn't like the one she used to give me when she was trying to fix something, it was real, clean, unburdened. I'd like that, she said. A lot. We sat there longer than we planned. Not planning a wedding. Not rekindling romance. Just two people who had come out the other side of something sharp and learned how to walk again. Eventually, she stood. I should go. I've got a supplier call. I stood with her. Send me your notes afterward? Of course. We exchanged a hug. Not a promise. Not a reconciliation. Just warmth. As I watched her walk away, I realized something. I wasn't mourning anymore. I wasn't angry. What happened between us didn't break me, it refined me. It carved out space for boundaries I didn't know I needed, and showed me the lines between love and ownership. Between giving and erasure. That night, back at my apartment, I looked at the framed photo of us that still sat on the shelf. I didn't take it down. I didn't hide it. It was part of the story. Not the ending. But the chapter where we both became who we were supposed to be. Thank you for watching the video. Like it if you watched the video to the end, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.